Hare Krishna. Let's start with the Mangalachar. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shriyutapadakamalaಂ Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining in. I think we can start with reading the verse and the purport, and Mataji will join us. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's start with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirate. Nashtaprayeshu abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtiki. So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on the second canto, chapter 9. Chapter 9 is the answers by citing the Lord's version. And now we are on the 5th paragraph. So we'll read the text 33 and the translation and then go to the paragraph. Anybody would like to read the text and translation? Okay, I can read the text and translation. Aham eva sam avagre nanyat yat sat asat param paschad aham yat etacha yo vashishyate so smiham. Brahma, the translation, Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself. Nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, personality of Godhead. So on to the paragraph. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 1.4.1, there is a hymn, Atma Nivedan Agra Asit Purusha Vidhaha. The mantra indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna Even before the appearance of Purusha incarnation in the Bhagavad Gita 15.18, it is said that Lord Krishna is Purushottam because he is the supreme Purusha, transcendental even to the Purusha Akshara and the Purukshara. The Akshara Purush or the Mahavishnu throws his glance over the Prakriti or material nature, but the Purushottam existed even before that. The Brihad Aranyanga Upanishada therefore confirms the statement of the Bhagavad Gita that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Person, Purushottama. Hare Krishna. Has Mataji joined us? I think she has not joined us. So I can probably indulge and go on to the next paragraph. In some of the Vedas, it is also said that in the beginning only the impersonal Brahman existed. However, according to this verse, the impersonal Brahman, which is the glowing effulgence of the body of the Supreme Lord, may be called the immediate cause, the cause of all causes, or the remote cause, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord's impersonal feature is existent in the material world because by material senses or material eyes, the Lord cannot be seen or perceived. One has to be spiritualized the senses before one can expect to see or perceive the Supreme Lord. Mataji is joining, but he is always engaged in his personal capacity and he is eternal visible to the inhabitants of Vaikuntha, eye to eye. Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam.
Kritika Mataji, you said that Prabhuji hasn't come to join.
Mataji, Radhika Kasturi Mataji is going to join today.
Okay, thank you.
Hare
I thought
Krishna
Rukma
Mataji.
Das Prabhuji is there. I thought
No,
today.
on Wednesday it is Rukma Das Prabhu. Today is Tuesday. Today is Radhika Kasturi. Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna,
Please
Mataji,
accept my
Dandavat
humble
Pranam.
obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada Mataji. Can you give me 2 minutes? I'll join you, Mataji. Continue reading. I'll be with you shortly.
So the Lord is always engaged in his personal capacity and he is eternally visible to the inhabitants of Vaikuntha eye to eye. Therefore, he is materially impersonal, just as the executive head of the state may be impersonal in the government offices, although he is not impersonal in the government house. Similarly, the Lord is not impersonal in his abode, which is always nirastha kuhukam, as stated in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam. Therefore, both the impersonal and the personal features of the Lord are acceptable as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. The personality of Godhead is very emphatically explained in the Bhagavad Gita in connection with the verse Brahmano hi Parashitanam, Bhagavad Gita 14.27. Therefore, in all ways, the confidential part of the spiritual knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead and not his impersonal Brahman feature. One should therefore have his ultimate aim of realization not in the impersonal feature but in the personal feature of the absolute truth. The example of the sky within the pot and the sky outside the pot may be helpful to the student for his realization of all the pervading quantity of the cosmic consciousness of the absolute truth. But that does not mean that the individual part and parcel of the Lord becomes the supreme by a false claim. It means only that the conditional soul is a victim of illusionary energy in her last nerve. To claim to be one with the cosmic consciousness of the Lord is the last trap set by the illusionary energy or Devi Maya. Even in the impersonal existence of the Lord, as it is the material creation, one should aspire for personal realization of the Lord, and that is the meaning of Paschat Aham Yad etacha yu vashishyate susmahyam. Hare Krishna Mataji, over to you.
Om Ajnana-Timirandasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshurummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna-Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschaita Deshatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jainam Udire Shrivata Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayam Tastohi Abhadrani Vidunoti Sugrit Satam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for your patience today. So let's get started with the chapter, second canto, ninth chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And as you all can see, so the as far as what is happening here is, we can understand there is a setting of platform for Lord and Brahma's conversation. And then Lord Brahma's darshan of Vaikuntha is being shown. After that, being pleased, the Lord invites Brahma to ask his benedictions. And then Brahma is now posing questions to the Lord to ask him, oh, Lord, kindly describe about your material and spiritual forms and describe about how are your different energies working. And then I would also like to know about your pastimes in relation to your energies. And then, of course, after all this, I would want your guidance to serve without pride and bondage. Again, the bondage is a very, very subtle element. Of course, pride, you will be able to understand how proud you are through your intentions. But when it comes to this bondage, we feel it's a part of us. Most of the time, if you look at it, yes, I do an activity and I'm very attached to that activity. It could be like material work, it could be um, anything related to material activity that you could be attached to, but you don't realize that that attachment is not good. When it comes to pride, of course, you understand. I'm proud uh, because the intention shows you're proud. Your pride about your work, your pride about who you are, your pride about your wealth, a lot of things that you could be proud about. Are you proud of your children? So the intention shows it all. But when it comes to attachment, you feel it's a part of you, right? You are attached to something. It could be anything in this material world that you're attached to, but you think that's normal. You will never realize that is the one that's causing bondage. So Brahmaji here is seeking guidance to serve without pride and bondage. That's kind of what is this. I mean, I would just say a two-line summary of what is happening as far as this chapter goes. Now, specifically, the 33rd verse is answering this question: describe your material and spiritual forms. So that was one of the questions that Brahmaji had posed, and for that there is an answer, which is what 2.9.3 talks about. And similarly, 33 talks about. 2.93.34 will talk about how his different energies are working. And then 28 will talk about the pastimes in relation to his energies. And then the 29th and the 30th verse of this chapter will talk about, okay, what is the guidance now to be able to serve without this pride and not have bondage. When you don't have bondage, you'll not be disturbed, dear devotees. This is a very important thing I'm realizing over. I think this is more so of importance to me now, especially this month. We've been thinking too much about this attachment to subtle things, um, but I'm not able to give up those attachments. So it's just contemplating myself, oh my God, how difficult is it to give up the attachment? Because we have developed a strong bond or strong emotions related to those attachments. And that is one of the reasons I'm just not able to give it up. And how this can be given up eventually? Again, developing more faith on Krishna. And Krishna is my ultimate shelter. This is not my ultimate shelter. Understanding deep in your heart how important Krishna is in our lives, and nothing more in this world is important than being a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. This is sort of the realization we eventually must have, dear devotees. And that is what we must aspire from the heart. So as you all can see, that one of the important, one of the, not one of the, it's important questions and answers are being discussed in this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I think Mataji read the whole conversation. So let me go to the purport of Srila Prabhupada, and then we can discuss through some of the aspects and then go from there. But again, I want to at least briefly cover some portions of it uh, before we run out on time. Okay. So today we will end the class probably 15 minutes early because I have to go, dear devotees. So anyways, so the first couple of points that are being spoken about are: the kingdom of Godhead is not void as conceived by the impersonalists. So what is the conception of impersonalists? They consider it as void, and that's not how we conceive. And then the personality of Godhead exists before the creation. He exists with all the transcendental variegatedness in the Vaikuntha Lokas. Now, if you look at Vaikuntha Lokas, there may be a question. What is that Loka? Is it being accepted in the scripture somewhere? Yes. That's why Srila Prabhupada gives us a quote to say, it is also accepted in Bhagavad Gita. It is as being of the Sanatana nature. No, it is not annihilated. If the material cosmos is annihilated, this Vaikuntha Loka, they don't annihilate. That is the proof from Bhagavad Gita 8.20. Okay. So this is as far as the lokas in this material world, what happens to them? They are destroyed as a result of the annihilation. But when it comes to the Vaikuntha lokas, no, they are not at all destroyed. And then the transcendental planets are of different nature altogether. And the nature is not subjected to rules and regulations of material creation, maintenance, and annihilation. So the existence of the personality of Godhead implies, okay, what does it imply? It implies that there is existence of Vaikuntha Lokas. And then there is a comparison to say, see, just like how there is existence of a king implies there is a kingdom. King is there. He can't just be there without a kingdom, right? The presence of the king obviously implies a big obviously implies that there is existence of kingdom. Similarly, the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that itself implies there is Vaikuntha Lokas. Are you all with me, dear devotees? So, we are just discussing some of the aspects from the purport of what is being talked about. Okay, what are the personalist conception of God? What is the impersonalist concept of the God? Then what about annihilation? What happens in the material world and what happens in the Vaikuntha Lokas? Is there proof in the scriptures to prove the point that there is this Vaikuntha Loka that is not annihilated? For that, he's quoting 8.20. And then he gives a comparison between a king and the Vaikuntha Lokas to help us understand. Yes, there is existence. The existence of the Godhead itself means there is existence of Vaikuntha Lokas, just like how the existence of king implies the existence of the kingdom. And then, how does the personality of Godhead cause the creation, maintenance, and annihilation? Who's always freed from the influence of illusionary energy and is the controller of the same? who lies in everyone's heart. For that, he gives a proof. He's saying even the devotees of the personality of Godhead, they are not annihilated. And during this period of entire annihilation of the material world, these devotees of the Lord, they are not annihilated. And if that is the case, what about the Lord himself? Of course, he is not going to be annihilated. The Lord is ever existence in all three stages of material life. This is what he says, that is creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Who's the one who's always freed from the influence of illusionary energy? And who's the controller who's lying in everyone's heart? For that, he gives a response to say, here, you go to Skanda Puran. It says, oh, devotees of the Supreme Personality of the the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they don't die when the universe annihilates. And what about Lord? He will also obviously not die. He's always ever existent. And then it is being discussed the activities of Brahma and other demigods during maintenance of the creation are to be understood as the activities of the Lord. So whatever Brahmaji is doing, it should be understood as the activities of the Lord. Okay, dear devotees. And you should also very, very be sure about the fact that the personality of Godhead is never formless. In this material world, he may not be visible in his personal form to the less intelligent class of men, and therefore he may be sometimes called formless. That is the reason. But actually, he has his eternal form in the Vaikuntha planets and in other planets of the universe as different incarnations. Do you know about that? That's sort of how he's, see, because Brahmaji's question is about form of the Lord. What about the material and what about the spiritual form? So is the material form formless and the spiritual form having a form? Is it something like that? He answers every possible question with an answer and gives us an answer, and that has a reference to a scripture. In first we saw Bhagavad Gita, where it is mentioned, oh, Vaikuntha Lokas are not annihilated. Then he talks about Skanda Purana. See, devotees are not annihilated. Devotees of the Lord are not annihilated. What about the Lord himself? Would he be annihilated? No way. He talks about the Loka, he talks about devotees, he talks about the Lord himself. And then what about his form? He clarifies that. So this is sort of the sequence he comes through, right? And he gives us, okay, what is the question and what is the answer? And then, dear devotees, if you look at it, the personality of Godhead and his kingdom are explained, right? As I told you, the kingdom of Godhead is not void as it is conceived by the impersonalists. And Vaikuntha planet is what? It is full of transcendental variegatedness. It has the 400 residents of Vaikuntha planet who resembles the Lord. It has a great opulence and wealth and prosperity. There are even aeroplanes. There are amenities required for higher grade personalities. Therefore, if you look at it, the personality of Godhead, he exists even before creation. He exists in his transcendental variegatedness in the Vaikuntha Lokas. And the Vaikuntha Lokas, they are accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as what? As being Sanatan in nature. And they are not annihilated. Even after the annihilation of the manifested cosmos. So, and then he talks about, the existence of personality of Godhead implies existence of Vaikuntha Lokas. Just as the presence of the king implies the existence of the kingdom. And we all know 96% of all the gurus in India are all Mayavadis. They're all teaching something that is misleading. Therefore, these 4 verses of Chatusloki Bhagavatam teaches us that Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person and that Vaikuntha planets exist. And for that, we are quoting relevant scriptures. Yes, look at Bhagavad Gita 8.20. There is another manifest nature which is eternal and it's transcendental to the manifest and the unmanifested matter. It is the supreme and it's never annihilated. When all the world is annihilated, that part of the spiritual world remains as it is. In various places of Bhagavatam, over and over, he is trying to prove the point of all these things that we talked about by giving examples from the scriptures. Oh, yeah, you know what? You look at 2.8.10. What does it say? How does the personality of Godhead, the creation, the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, is always freed from the influence of illusory energy? And how is he the controller of the same? And he lies in everybody's heart. There's also a similar question from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a question posed by Vidura, which also asks, what's going on? The same question. And then, when you look at our Acharya, Sridhar Swami, he explains during annihilation of the creation, who serves the Lord lying on the Shesha? This means the transcendental Lord, with his name, fame, quality, and paraphernalia, is existing eternally, right? Because what does the statement say? During the annihilation of the creation, somebody is serving the Supreme Lord, that's Sesha. I mean, Lord is lying on the Sesha. So this means that this Lord is existing always, even during annihilation, and he is there eternally. And then, as far as I think Kashi Kanta of the Skanda Puran, it also talks about this in connection with Dhruva Charitra. It is said there, even devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not annihilated during the period of entire annihilation of the world. What to speak about Lord himself? The Lord is existent in all stages of material life, as we saw before. And then there is a discussion between Brahmaji and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the activities of Brahma and other demigods during the maintenance period, it's nothing but it should be understood as activities of the Lord. Because, see, a king or a head of the state may not be seen in the government offices. If you go to the local government offices, they may not be seen because he is going to be engaged probably in royal comforts. Yet it is to be understood because of these officers, such as the king or the head of the executive, everything is done under their direction and everything is done under their command. It should be understood like that. The personality of Godhead is never formless. In the material world, he may not be visible in his person form. Am I able to see him? So can I just assume he's formless? No. Because I'm not having an eyes anointed with love. That is why I'm not able to see him, right? If our eyes are anointed with love, then why not? We will be singing and chanting and always seeing him eternally. We'll not think about anything else but the Lord, right? This is the point, dear devotees. So that's being clarified in some of the purport lines. And then, because I'm just going through this because first we need to understand Srila Prabhupada's purport to be even able to understand what's happening. Because without going into understanding Srila Prabhupada's purports, we'll not be able to understand anything more than, our basics have to be first set right. Always Srila Prabhupada's purport multiple number of times till we understand the purport. Then, okay, what are Acharya's views on this? That way, it gives us multiple perspective of, okay, how this is being enjoyed by our Rasik Acharyas, how this commentary is, commentary is given by Acharya Srila Prabhupada. So we are able to have that multiple viewpoints, so as to say. Now, Srila Prabhupada, he says, Lord Krishna, he is Purushottam. Because he is the Supreme Purushottam, he is transcendental, right? Even to, he's transcendental. And then Mahavishnu, he throws his glance over Prakriti or material nature. And if you look at our Purushottama, Supreme Personality of our Godhead, he existed always. In Brakadaranya Upanishad, the statement confirms Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Person. He is Purushottama. And then 15.18 he points out to say, see, because I am transcendental, because I am both fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated not only in this world, but also in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15.18. And then he says, no one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. It is neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. Therefore, this is the reason why he is greatest of all the personalities, right? So the Lord's impersonal feature is exist in the material world. Why? If you ask this question, why? Because this world, this material world is perceived by what? Material senses. And material eyes cannot perceive the Lord. That's why this material feature is existent. I mean, that is why this impersonal feature is existent in this material world. Because by the materials, as I said, by the material senses or by the material eyes, the Lord cannot be seen or perceived. As I told you, how it can be seen? One has to spiritualize their senses before one can expect to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as you all know, the Lord is always engaged in his personal capacity and he is eternally visible. To whom? To the residents of Vaikuntha Loka. How he is visible? Face to face. Because, okay, we understand in that Loka he is always visible to the Vaikuntha Vasis face to face. Therefore, he is materially impersonal. Just as the executive head, he again gives us very, very simple examples for us to understand this fact that, see, the executive of the state, he may be impersonal in government offices, although he is not impersonal in his government house. That's what Prabhupada says. He may not be visible, right? He may not be seen every day in the government offices because he may be performing his duty somewhere else. But when it comes to his government house, yes, he's always there. He's personal. So that's kind of what he says. And then, so there is no other cause of all the causes than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one should therefore, and he also makes a very important reference to say that as far as what we should do, one should therefore follow the path of Brahma Sampradaya, the path of Brahmaji to Narada to Vyasadeva, and make a point to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Hari or Lord Krishna. And as far as the demigods go, we have Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Indra, Chandra, Varuna. They are undoubtedly different forms of the Lord for the execution of different functions. There are different elemental ingredients of material creation, as well as multifarious energies. And also, they may be, as far as personalities go, Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. That should never be forgotten. And then one should be attached to the root of everything rather than be bewildered by the branches and the leaves. That's also another instruction that is given in this verse. As you all can understand, dear devotees, so the point that is being spoken over and over here is, if you can see, he talks about Bhagavad Gita first. He says 15.8. Through this, what are we trying to understand? We are trying to understand nobody can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead, neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. And therefore, now it's clear he is the highest personality of Godhead. And it's also clear that both these living entities and the personality of Godhead, they are individuals. The difference is that living entities, if you look at them, they are either in a conditioned state or in a liberated state. And they cannot surpass in quantity the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, it's incorrect to also think the Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects. Therefore, when it always comes the question of superiority and inferiority between personalities. The word Uttama means the Lord. No one can surpass the Lord. That is why Uttama is used always. Okay, dear devotees, this is what is one of the clarifications given by Srila Prabhupada. And then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he talks about the localized aspect, that is the Paramatma. That is also described in Vedas. We know. And then he quotes the Chandogya Upanishad for the same. That is the super soul coming out of the body. He talks about the super soul, and it's also the localized aspect, and it's called the Paramatma. So like that, he gives a quote for the Paramatma aspect of it from the Chandogya Upanishad. And then he says, in some Vedas, it is also said that in the beginning, only the impersonal Brahman existed. However, according to this verse, the impersonal Brahman, what does it mean? It's glowing effulgence of the Supreme Lord's body. Okay? So the Lord's impersonal feature is existent because the material world has material senses and the material eyes cannot be seen or perceived. And therefore, we have to spiritualize the senses. As far as spiritualization process goes, how we can do that? Spiritualizing the senses only by hearing, chanting, worshipping the Lord, purifying our senses, and not expect anything else from a Lord. As you understand, Lord is not a business transactor, right? He is personality with whom we have to give our love and devotion 100%. So that's what is being talked about here, dear devotees. And then he says, he gives a reference of 2.7.50 and says, see, my dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the manifested worlds. Without him, that is the Hari of the Lord, there is no other cause of the phenomenal or the nominal existence. There's no other cause because he is the cause of all causes. This is a very, very confidential instruction to the pure devotees of the Lord. And this was also given to Arjuna and to Brahma in the beginning of creation. So one should be, this is what he says. And then there is also a talk about Lord has, Vishnu has 96% qualities of Krishna. The Lord has 4 more additional qualities than Vishnu. And he's the sweeter of the sweetest, right? So that's kind of what is spoken about in the purport as well. Now, what else is spoken? Because this purport is so long, there's just so many aspects that Prabhupada wants us to clearly understand as far as the material and the spiritual forms go. As I mentioned, over and over, Srila Prabhupada stresses about what one should be attached to, right? We talk about, especially with me, this month I've been trying to understand what are my attachments and how deep are my attachments. Some of my attachments are emotionally rooted, dear devotees. That is why I'm just not able to get over those emotions. It's just that I'm thinking it's mine. That's the problem. So I'm able to realize it or at least understand, yes, I shouldn't have these attachments, but trying to work on it to kind of mend or at least understand, yes, this is just not how we should be. Slowly getting there, we'll see how successful I am. So this verse over and over says, yes, be attached to the root. Root is Krishna. And don't be bewildered by the branches and the leaves. They may look real, but Krishna is the root and we should be attached. The purpose of this life is to realize Krishna. And it's just impossible if we are too much entangled in these bodily attachment this world has to offer. So one should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. The name of Krishna is attractive. One should become attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna. The person who is able to obviously see Krishna's form is very, very fortunate. And one who is attracted to the personal feature of the Lord, above all, one who is attached to the personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, he says devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of this knowledge. And this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Again, if you look at Lord, he is not at all impersonal in his abode. This is stated in the very beginning of Bhagavatam as well. Practically speaking, he says, There's no conflict between personalism and impersonalism, but one who knows God in the impersonal and the impersonal and the personal conception simultaneously present in everything. For him, there is no contradiction. That's the thing. It's what is this principle called by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? It's called Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. Simultaneous one and difference, right? In the jurisdiction of Krishna, Krishna extends everywhere. And one who knows Krishna consciousness, he is blessed. Those who don't know Krishna, what are they in? They are in illusion. So the knowledge of Krishna is liberation. And if you look at the ignorance of him, it is bondage. Why I'm in bondage? Because I'm ignorant. I'm just not understanding the glory of Krishna enough, or I don't have enough faith in Krishna, which is why we are stuck in this bondage of birth, death, old age, and disease. The more we are entangled and more we do not realize that we are bonded by so many things this material world has to offer and think it to be real, that's when the problem comes. Okay. And then he talks about the science of God, right? The science of absolute truth. Who does it become manifest to? He says it becomes manifest to the liberated soul. And then he also talks about one who has tasted spiritual life. For him, whatever he has, for as far as the unwanted things of life go, that would at once diminish. So if one takes to Krishna consciousness by practice and one comes to what will eventually happen to him? Detachment will eventually happen to him. The more you are attached to Krishna, the more detachment becomes easier. You won't even have any strain in giving up things that is not of importance for Krishna. So Prabhupada says, one side a person should cultivate Krishna consciousness, and then other side he should also work on detaching himself. And this will automatically happen because more you're attached to Krishna, the more you will be detached from material things. And he says we cannot continue both the things. Cultivating Krishna consciousness and being into unwanted things, that doesn't go hand in hand, right? So eventually you will give up the material activities or even unwanted things this material world has to offer. Not that whatever you like, you can eat, whatever you like, you can do. At the same time, you should be spiritually advanced. This is all nonsense, he says. What at the end of the day, see, we are told as Krishna devotees, prasadam is what we should consume. Whatever you like, you can eat or what? No. To become spiritually advanced, we have to follow the rules of Krishna consciousness because we are in Vaidhi Bhakti. We are not Raganugas yet without any rules or regulations. We are bound by certain rules and regulations so that we are able to work through it. We have to take a bath, we have to cleanse ourselves, perform Mantralati, perform studies of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. That is how we can advance in Krishna consciousness. This is what is taught to us. And if we know, as soon as we come across Maya, that is absence of Krishna. Shadow means absence of light and absence of sunshine. So if you always keep in Krishna consciousness, there is no shadow of Maya. And this is what is the point here, devotees. So we understand the fact, yes, what is the form of the Lord? What is it in the material world? What is it in the spiritual world? What is the form that we have to see? How we can see the form when our eyes is anointed with love? And for that, what we have to do? And what about the impersonalist conception? What about the personalist conception? What leads to bondage? And how bondage and Krishna consciousness can't go hand in hand? How can you get rid of bondage? So these are some of the questions that are being asked and for which an answer is given. All right, dear devotees. So we saw some of the I think we saw some of what Srila Prabhupada described about the science of Godhead, Bhagavad Tattva, and who's this liberated soul, right? What about a person who has tasted the spiritual life? For him, what will happen? For him, his unwanted things of material life will diminish. right? That is what is anartha nivritti. Anartha are things that are not wanted, which has no meaning. So one who is actually liberated from this anartha, I mean, one unwanted things of life, that person will be attached to Krishna. So the material life, he talks about it beginning with a knot in the heart. And what is this knot? This knot is the sexual desire, he says. There is this knot, and a man is hankering for women, a woman is hankering for man. This attachment is the beginning of material life. Everyone, not only this human society. If you look at animal society, say Prabhupada says bird society, bee society, everywhere you find this one attachment, that is sex attachment. Therefore, the first teaching a student is given for him to become, how to become a brahmachari, how to not become attached to the sexual life. When he's a brahmachari, one has to practice how to control the mind and control his senses. This is brahmacharya, tapasya. Prabhupada says it requires tapasya. And then Prabhupada says, at the moment, all of them are given all kinds of luxuries. Then how there will be a brahmachari? Everyone in the Western countries talks about our countries, and boys and girls, they're all educated. Co-education is there, living in the same building, so many things. So there's no brahmacharya, he says. That not in the heart is the sexual desire. It's getting more and more increased, it seems. It's not getting decreased. But if one comes into Krishna consciousness, there is a point where he can give up these unwanted things. That's what Prabhupada says. Krishna consciousness is how you will be. You don't have to put efforts to control your mind. You cannot control it, right? But when you're attached to Krishna, it automatically happens. And then he says, yeah, if one takes to Krishna consciousness, then gradually that sex desire, the test whether one sex desire is diminished or not, that is the test, he says. He says we are now in a very, very hazy position or hazy conclusion about our position. We don't know. We don't know what is God. We don't know our relationship. Everything is kind of speculated. But when one actually becomes free from this knot, when this knot is cut off, the attachment of material desire, at that time, he can sincerely understand what is his position. So he says, yes, now at this point, what you have to do? You have to just do Krishna consciousness, cultivate Krishna consciousness, and then eventually you give up these unwanted things. You cannot continue both the things. That's that much he says. So one has to practice tapasya. That is, brahmachari means he has to lie on the floor. He has to voluntarily accept inconvenience. Taking bath thrice a day is a duty of a sannyasi who's following the rules and regulations. He has to rise up early. He has to bathe and then become cleansed, perform Mangala Arati, study. All these is tapasya. And a person in Krishna conscious who is serious to become qualified, he has to be involved in these matters. Now, he also brings up this point. We are bound in this material world due to the point of karma. According to the past karma, we may say, I have got this body. Again, we are not, we are acting in this body. I'm preparing forward to my next body. We've got varieties of body, right? We've got common factors. All of us have human bodies. We have 2 hands, 2 legs, 1 head, a body, which is different from each other. You won't find one pair of body exactly same in nature as the other pair of body. No, that's not possible. Everything is everyone's karma. According to karma, we get different bodies. If we simply act for Krishna, if we get rid of the resultant, then we get rid of what? The resultant action of karma. Whatever you do it for Krishna. Good or bad, you're bound because you're hankering for the results. So whatever you do, you are doing it for Krishna, means we are surrendering ourselves to Krishna. Then he says, yes, the liberated stage means to remain fixed up in devotional service. Again, a point to be noted, dear devotees. Say, for example, I'm working, I'm saying, yeah, I surrender everything to Krishna. I'm still a karma adhikari. I'm not in the platform of pure devotion yet, because pure devotion means to do everything for Krishna in terms of devotional activities. I'm doing my material work, I'm surrendering that to Lord. That means I'm still a karma adhikari. I'm not yet in the platform of pure devotion, but that's what I want to be. I want to be engaged in activities 24/7, doing Krishna conscious activities completely. No, not doing karmarpanam. No, I want to exclude the element of karma. Anya abhilashita shunyam, jnana karmadhi anavritam, anukulyena krishnanu shrilanam bhakti rukam. That is the platform I want to be in. All right, dear devotees. So these are all the things that Srila Prabhupada talks about. And Krishna, he says, he quotes Chaitanya Charitamrita and says, Krishna is like a sunshine, Maya is like darkness. So wherever there is sunshine, there is no possibility of darkness. So keep yourself in Krishna consciousness. Then obviously there is no possibility of Maya, isn't it? Maya means to be engaged in fruitive activities. So as long as we have Maya, we engage ourselves in the fruitive activities, that is karma. So this is these, and everyone is suffering because or enjoying because it's a result of their karma. They are getting different results based on their karma. It's very easy to understand, he says. But those who are taken up to the Krishna consciousness in devotional service, for them their karma is cut off. And for that he gives Brahma Samhita example 5.54. For them there is no resultant reaction. Just like chickpeas, if you sow on the ground, it will fructify to the plant. But the same chickpea, if it is fried and you sow on the ground, it will not fructify. So karma should be fried up by what? Devotional service. I love this example of chickpea. Are you all able to understand? See, if there is a chickpea, if you sow it on the ground, it will eventually become a plant. But if the same chickpea, if it is fried nicely, and then you sow it on the ground, will it fructify? No. Then Prabhupada says, yeah, so your karma should be fried up by devotional service. Then it will not produce any result. After that, he says, yes, 18.66. Krishna also says in 18.66, there's no resultant action of devotional activity. Unless you are completely finished by the resultant action of karma, you cannot be promoted to the spiritual world. You have to accept a type of material body so long as the karma is going to happen. Okay, then he quotes another purport from Srimad Bhagavatam, where he talks about, in 5.5.4, he says, by karma only we are getting different type of bodies, although it is temporary. But as soon as we are engaged in this body, we become subject to the three folds of material life. So for a devotee, there is no more karma or there is no more material body. This is what it is talked about 4.9. After giving up this body, the devotee, he does not get any more birth in this material world. Tyaktva deham punarjanmam naiti mameti. In this, he gets a spiritual body, he goes back home, back to Godhead. And he becomes the eternal servant of the Lord, eternal servant of Krishna. So that is all. That's all I wanted to share, dear devotees. I know I wanted to stop at a point, but I couldn't. Anyways, so let's see if you have any questions. We will end this end this chapter for now and this class for now. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa santubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our acharyas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for today's session. I know you'll have to leave in 5 minutes. But I have a question, Mataji, regarding like yesterday we learned that personalization is important. So Krishna is a person, and we need to practice it among ourselves. Even in devotees, we become impersonal, and so to put personalization even in our day-to-day with our family, our children, our devotees, our friends, everything. So now I was just thinking that when you become personalized, then you'll become bounded with them. Then you'll increase your bondage. Isn't it better not to be personalized with your relatives and your friends and devotees, and just have the personal relationship with Krishna? Because you don't want to be bound by them.
Yes, so you have a beautiful question, Mataji. So as far as personalization, what it is Lord has personal features. See, with the personal feature, we are able to give our emotions to the other person, right? If if we don't have emotions, then there is no love. And for love to happen, there has to be an exchange. There has to be the rasa. And that component can come only with a personal feature of the Lord. Okay, now your point is not about personal feature of the Lord. What about personalizing people and contributing that emotion to them instead of devoting that to Krishna? That is the question, right? Hello?
Yes, yes,
Hare
yes,
Krishna.
yes, Mataji. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
So, yes, as far as that goes, Mataji, we are asked, we are given so many features of this material world, and it's impossible to detach from everything. It's just impossible. We cannot control. We cannot. It is just humanly impossible for us to control our emotions with the material things this world has to offer, be it our children, be it our relatives, be it our friends and family, be it anything, even an animal. You can't just not be devotion and not be
Personal.
not attached to it. But the point here that our acharyas are trying to tell over and over is you don't have to artificially do anything to detach yourself from these things. Just continue what you're doing, but that more and more attachment to Krishna, eventually you'll be able to detach yourself from all these things eventually. Say, for example, children. We are so our perception now is my guy. He's my child. He should listen to me. He should do what I say. And expectations are there. But as you attach yourself to Krishna, you look at him as his part and parcel. Oh, he's Krishna's. Whatever happens to him, Krishna is taking control of it. What I do as a parent is to give him Krishna consciousness. But there is a free will for him. I can't go and disturb that free will. He may not be into Krishna consciousness, but as a parent, you have tried your best to put him into Krishna consciousness. And then leave the rest to Krishna. But as you understand, yes, he's sitting in his heart as Paramatma, he's guiding him. And I am giving the necessary things from so all we are asked to do is that watch out on the material bondage, it will slowly decrease. My land, my house, my son, the question, all that my will come and become everything will become Krishna's. It's Krishna's property. He's Krishna's given him. That's how we will relate it. Yes, this house is there, but how I can make it Krishnatized? How I can give beautiful trees and flowers and plants that can actually serve Krishna? How I can just build even more bigger garden if you have a very luxurious house? How I can distribute it to devotees who can also relish Krishna in their house with more of the offerings that we have. You will start relating everything to Krishna. Of course, devotees are always, we have to stay in the association of devotees. We have to personalize with them. They are our go-to person when it comes to scriptures, when it comes to clarifications, when it comes to getting gyan, everything devotees have to offer. Without devotees association, we are not anywhere. Everything personal will be Krishnatized after a point. That will happen, Mataji. That's what we should aim for. Right now, we are having the material aspect strongly bonded because of our emotions attached to it. But then, when it becomes Krishnatized, you will see Krishna everywhere in every living entity, in every non-living entity also. That's the magic of Krishna. You will start seeing him everywhere. Okay, hope I answered your question, Mataji.
Yes, yes, Mataji. Thank you very much. I think we need to release you because you had said that you wanted to go early, so we won't have any more questions. We'll reserve it for next week. So we will end this session today. Let us chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. in glorification of Radhika Kasturi Mataji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpatarubhishya kripa sindhu bhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namaha.
Srila Prabhupada
Hare
ki
ki jai.
Her Grace
Hari Hari
Radhika
Bol.
Kasturi
All
Mataji
glories to the
ki
assembled
jai.
devotees.
Grantaraj
Hari
Srimad
Bol.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you
All
so much,
glories to the
Mataji.
assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas and spiritual masters. Hare Krishna. See you all next
Hare
week.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
We see you next Tuesday. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna.